Welcome back to the Division X podcast, where athletes, coaches, and performance meet. We're excited to bring you some new content each and every episode. I'm here with my good friend, Jess. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Very well. Thanks for asking. And our big, exciting topic today we want to talk about is most athletes think coaches are specifically looking for skill, but that's not actually what separates players. So today, our big conversation is going to be all about what coaches actually are looking for in players. But before we dive into that, Jess, over the last episode or so, we've been talking a lot about athletics, and we talking about, just different aspects of being an athlete. But just talk to me real quick about one of your favorite coaching moments that you've had growing up from one of your coaches.
Man, that's
I put you on the spot.
Yeah,
I'm so
did.
sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite coaching moments is, I don't know, I think I got checked. So I like tough love. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me if I'm doing good, or just don't tell me at all. After a game, especially with softball, it is a team sport. So if you lose, the team loses. If you win, the team wins. But in the end, I feel like you have to look at yourself as an individual. So I remember one game, I thought I had a really good game. And one of my coaches was like, hey, how do you think you did today? And we lost, unfortunately. But I, went 2 for 3 of hitting, made all my plays, no errors. And I was like, I actually think I did pretty well. And he was like, you could have done better. And I don't know, that stuck with me, thinking like, okay, despite you could always do better than what you think you can. Yeah. So it's like, challenge yourself. And I don't know, that always stuck with me. So kind of just made me always think like, I'm never good enough. You just have to keep striving to do better.
Yeah, that's so good. A real quick example. I remember when I was growing up, one of our most successful seasons that we had as a hockey team, I'll never forget, our coach was super hard, very hard. Yeah. Every practice, every game, he was very hard. And it made me realize, looking back, that was the year we actually went to nationals with our hockey team. It made me realize that he wasn't hard on us just to be hard. He was hard because he was trying to pull the potential out of us. Right. And he knew we could be better, we could play better. And it was a great experience. Looking back, sometimes when you're in it, you're like, this is not as much fun as I signed up for. But looking back, that coach pulled the most that he possibly could pull out of us. And I'll never forget that. He's actually a local coach. He's a local guy now, but I'll never forget that. That was one of the biggest lessons that I learned going through my career is, coaches aren't necessarily, they're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to be, they're there to pull potential. And, when I coach, that's what I try to do. Yeah. I'm trying to pull potential out of my kids.
Yeah.
But that was just a quick description on some of our journey. But one of the things we want to talk about is most athletes think that coaches are looking for skill, but that's not actually what separates players. A lot of times athletes are focused on stats. They're focused on skill. But as a coach, I think effort is one of the biggest things that coaches are looking for. We use the term the 5-minute rule. Within 5 minutes, you can tell what type of athlete that is. We touched on this briefly last episode, but I want to kind of dive in. Walk me through that first 5 minutes, what you recognize in an athlete, and it could be here at the gym, but even on the field. Walk me through that.
I feel like even whether in here or on the field, the way the athlete shows up, if they show up dragging their feet, if they show up like unprepared, I feel like that goes to show like what kind of background or what kind of athlete they are. Where if they're coming, whether they're the most talented, whether they're the least talented, if they show up with a high confidence, they're ready to play, they're ready, they have the energy. That's just 1 minute of that aspect. They're ready to play. In the first 5 minutes, same thing. Your warm up, everything. If they are lackadaisically going through the warm up, it just goes to show like, I don't know, they're not ready to play, or they don't want to be here. Where it just based on their body. Me personally, their body language is how you show up is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think body language tells you everything you need to know about someone's performance. I had this conversation, actually, I was outside coaching lacrosse, and I noticed one of the kids during a demonstration, his back was turned towards the play. And listen, sports are all about fun. You should have fun, but at the same time, it's you want to be intentional about how you're learning. If you want to be an athlete and you want to put yourself in a position for success, it doesn't matter if you're in the play or not. You always have to be paying attention. Just because a coach isn't talking to you directly doesn't mean you can't learn. And body, just like what you said, body language plays a huge role in that. And I see immediately, I see the kids that are fooling around. I see the kids who are, again, I'm not taking away from the fun of sports, but at the same time, be engaged. Listen to what's going on. There's a time and a place. If you're going to have a conversation, but at least be paying attention to what's happening on in front of you. I see that. I mean, I see that a lot out of kids.
A lot.
But let's talk about coachability a little bit. Body language is huge, but coachability. What does it mean to be coachable? I guess in terms of, let's just talk about the gym. What does it mean to be coachable?
I mean, last episode you heard me say adaptable. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be ready to pretty much do whatever either a coach tells you, whether it's a position or even in the gym. Even when you're lifting, if you aren't willing to learn and really break down the technique from the start, you aren't as coachable as someone who is coachable. Someone's, like you said, being present, looking at you, listening, being, just being ready to listen. Where if you can't make those small adjustments, then unfortunately, you are a tougher kid to coachable, or even adult. It spans from our youth athletes all the way to our adults that come into the facility, where if you're not willing to listen and learn and break down, have that body awareness, then unfortunately, then you are a more harder person to coach.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think consistency also plays in a big role. When you think about, again, these are young athletes. Some of our athletes are young, and some of them all range all the way into college. But I think being consistent is also a major, major thing when it comes to training. What are you doing? Not necessarily inside the gym, but if you want to get better at something, if you want to get better at any skill, consistency. They talk about the rule of 10,000. If you do 10,000 repetitions of something, you should be able to master 10,000 hours of a certain skill. You should be able to master that skill.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not telling everyone to go out and do 10,000, but are you consistent enough to make your goals more attainable just by you putting in the effort? And consistency isn't just in front of people. We always talk about, especially here in the gym, we always talk, what are you doing outside of the gym when no one's watching, when you're not performing in front of someone, when you're not trying to impress someone? What type of consistency are you having outside of the gym? And I'm sure you as an athlete, there was days where you're doing that stuff on your own to get better, whether, wall balls or
anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Can't say wall balls, but at least something. Like you said, there's only so much you could do in the facility because you do need equipment.
Yeah.
There are certain types of training where you need the equipment to do it. But again, what you have to almost think outside the box. How can I better myself outside of the gym, outside of playing my sport? What can I, myself, work on that I know is a weakness of mine in order to improve? And that's not always needed in the gym. You have to kind of do it outside as well.
I agree. Last thing on this segment I want to touch on is just the competitiveness aspect. When you think of a competitor, what's the first thing that jumps into your mind?
Don't lose.
I mean, true.
You can't lose.
Yeah.
Being competitive is just you want to be the best at whatever it is that you're doing. You want and you feel the need to be the best, and you're going to do whatever you can to get there. I'm a very competitive person, so whatever I want to do is I'm gonna be very angry if I'm not the best at what it is.
And I think within the gym, that actually pushes some of our athletes because that competitive aspect, it's fun competition, whether it's a race or, a certain skill that we're trying to learn. That competitive, I want to learn quicker. I want to do it better. I want to jump higher. What are the things that I can do in order to progress myself to get there? Because that all translates right to the field or right to the ice. That mindset, when you come in and I hate losing more than I like winning.
Correct.
We can have this conversation.
Right. If you're not first, you're last. And as a coach, it makes it even more fun to coach these athletes. Just being in the class where everyone is they're mad that they didn't hit a PR, or maybe their times are getting slower. I love to see kids mash up against one another and they're determined to beat each other. Whether it's siblings, they might even know each other. They're just not here to lose. Yeah. And that just brings the morale and the energy within it as well. And just like you said, just as a coach and an athlete, it just feels a little bit more, it brings me joy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to explain.
So do you hate losing?
I hate losing.
Okay. More than you love winning.
Yes.
Okay, I would have to say
you're first or you're last. Whether I could be nope.
That's a question I ask a lot of people. Do you hate losing or do you love to win? Which one is kind of higher? I'm with you.
Top answer.
So talking about athletes and talking about some of the kids that we coach, talk me through an experience that you have with an athlete that comes in and they just have a drive that's beyond the norm.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What type of characteristics do they have, and that you notice immediately?
Yeah. I feel like just from the individual athletes that I've worked with, the ones that are here to work are a little bit more quieter. They're here, they have their head down because they're here to work. They're not here like, I have tea today, or, I have a story for you today, which, yeah, obviously, like you said, we want to make it fun. And I feel like we have a, great awareness of making it fun, knowing when to, I guess, have fun and be serious. Where the ones who are here to work are the ones that are a little bit more quieter. They're kind of harder to break, but they put 110% effort in that session, because they're just, hey, we did this, what's next?
Yeah.
And that's it. And then when they're done, we stretch, they're out. There's no in between of kind of wasting time, or like not wasting time, but taking advantage of the time and like dilly-dallying their way through it.
Yeah.
So the quiet ones are the ones you got to watch out for.
It's funny, you really kind of see two types of athletes. Especially people who are doing the training now, doing early. You see the ones who are naturally gifted, who are naturally skilled, and those sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes those are the athletes that don't necessarily have that work ethic, because things come naturally to them, because they're good, because they're a step ahead of everyone at this age. And again, this doesn't pertain to everyone, but I do see sometimes they don't put in that extra effort. They don't develop the work ethic. And what I've noticed is, over the course of time, some of the athletes that we've been working with, some of the kids that I've coached and even watched in their careers, because you haven't developed a work ethic, it is harder to attain as you get older.
Correct.
If you start developing it early, and again, this isn't pertaining just to sports, but just a work hard mentality, what I've noticed is the athletes who are fairly good, maybe not the best on their team, maybe not the fastest, they're the ones who put in the extra effort, that are doing the extra rep, that are going the extra mile. I mean, I know it's a pun, but they're doing just a little bit more. And realistically, as a coach, when I'm watching, when I'm at tryouts, those are the athletes that you want, because those kids they're coachable.
Right.
You can look at that kid and be like, all right, your skill may not be exactly where I need it, but guess what? I know that you're willing to put in the work to get there. And, if you're listening to this podcast today, this is if you're taking anything away, this is what you need to take away. You have to be willing to go that little bit extra, because that's what coaches are looking for. That's exactly what coaches are looking for.
You can't teach hard work. And like, I did a little research before this to kind of, taking two professional athletes. I look at Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel peaked in peaked in college. Okay. Peaked in college. Went to the NFL, kind of choked. He didn't have that work ethic. If you look, there's actually a documentary on him for Netflix. Outside training, he wasn't a hard worker. He was a partier. He was so consumed by his social life rather than the sport, which, he did great. He exceeded. Getting drafted is huge. But then you look at a Julian Edelman, who played QB in college, had to learn a whole new position going to the NFL. So like two different not drastic, but like very similar athletes. But Julian Edelman took the extra mile to learn an entire new position in order to, again, be coachable, be adaptable to go to the NFL and succeed.
It's funny, guys. I remember hearing a story about Edelman, and he moved to the city where Brady was living, and just waiting for a phone call, be like, I will do all your reps. I will go out and run all your routes. He put himself in a position for success. And I think looking at athletes today with so many distractions and so many different things, sometimes you lose sight of your goal. And I'm more so talking to our older athletes, because I don't want all of our younger athletes to specialize in a specific thing. You should be a well-rounded athlete.
Correct.
But what is your goal? What is your ultimatum? I know not everybody, there's 6 to 7% of athletes are actually going to make it to college and play sports. I know not everybody has that dream and that aspiration, but what are your goals? What are some of those things? You need to look long term and figure out where I'm headed in order to play it backwards and to develop a game plan. If you're just training for the sake of training, that's fine. You're going to be a great athlete. You'll probably be very fit. But if you have specific goals and specific dreams, if one of your dreams is to be in that 6 or 7%, No, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, those are the numbers. If one of your dreams and aspirations is to play college, okay, what am I doing in order to get there? What are some of my goals? Do I need to be in this category? Okay, so how do I do that? And then work backwards. Figure out what it takes. Talk to people. Listen to stories. Figure out what those types of things. But it really ultimately comes down to, what is a coach looking for? Why are they going to pick you? Because I promise there's a lot of you. What is going to separate you versus everybody else?
Right.
And I think these are all great points that we make. What are coaches looking at? Talent gets you noticed, but I promise you habits will keep you there.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Easily.
So the habits, they start here, they start in the gym, they start at home. Nutrition. We have a future podcast talking about nutrition, but I mean, nutrition is just as important as anything else.
80% of it.
Yeah.
Basically, what they say, 80% of nutrition, 20% is what you do for training.
Yeah.
That's what you do outside the gym. That's more important.
I heard this quote a little while ago, and it really kind of stuck with me, is you can't outskill bad habits.
I like that.
Yeah. You can't outskill bad habits. Put that somewhere, put that in your bathroom, hang it up. Yeah. That is literally, athleticism 101 right there. You have to be skillful. Don't get me wrong. We're not downplaying.
You need the skill. Absolutely. Yeah. And in order to succeed, you do need that basic skill, but you can't be,
you can't outskill
bad habits. So.
But, again, this is, we're running through episode. Please don't be afraid. Share it, like it, comment, send it on anyone who this episode might be helpful. We're going to jump into our 1% better tip. And this week we have, be the most coachable athlete in the room. I'm going to say that one more time for you. So be the most coachable athlete in the room. And I promise you, you will go places. We want to thank you again for listening. Jess, thanks so much. We appreciate you. And we will see you guys next time.